They say that regret is the heaviest burden a heart can carry, heavier than grief, heavier than loss, because regret is built on the foundation of choice, on the knowledge that things could have been different if only we'd been brave enough to reach for them. This is my story, the story of a human healer who thought she was protecting her freedom when she rejected the love of a werewolf beta. This is also Rowan's story, a beta who offered his heart and accepted its rejection with grace, even as it shattered him. This is a story about fear and courage, about the choices we make and the prices we pay, about discovering that sometimes the thing we're running from is exactly what we need. And it's a story about learning, sometimes too late, that love doesn't ask permission before it roots itself in your soul. In the modern world, humans and werewolves exist in an uneasy peace. The packs rule from the shadows, their territories sprawling across continents, their laws older than any human government. They don't seek the spotlight. They don't need to. Their power is absolute, their influence undeniable. And humans? We live under their protection, whether we acknowledge it or not. Some towns exist entirely within pack territories. Others, like Ashfall, sit on the borders, neutral ground where humans and wolves interact with cautious civility. Ashfall was a small town of maybe 5,000 people, nestled in a valley between dense forests. Half the population was human, the other half belonged to the Moonfang Pack, one of the oldest and most respected packs in the region. For the most part, humans and wolves kept to themselves, separate schools, separate neighborhoods, separate lives that occasionally intersected but rarely intertwined. I had lived in Ashfall my entire 26 years. I was a healer, trained in both traditional medicine and the herbal remedies passed down through my grandmother's line. My clinic sat on the very edge of town, positioned deliberately in neutral territory, so I could treat both humans and wolves without political complications. I was good at what I did, respected, needed, and absolutely, resolutely determined to remain independent. I had watched too many human women fall in love with wolves only to lose themselves in the process. Pack law was absolute. Pack hierarchy was rigid. And human mates, even cherished ones, were always outsiders looking in. I wanted no part of it. So when Rowan first walked into my clinic 3 years ago, bleeding from a training accident, and insisting it was just a scratch, I treated him with professional efficiency and sent him on his way. When he came back a week later with a twisted ankle, I'd raised an eyebrow but said nothing. When he started appearing every few weeks with increasingly minor injuries, I'd finally confronted him. "Beta Rowan," I'd said, crossing my arms, "I'm quite certain your pack has healers of its own, wolves with actual medical training, not just a human with an herb garden." Rowan had smiled, that devastating smile that made my traitorous heart skip a beat. He was beautiful in the way wolves often were, tall and powerfully built, with dark hair that fell just past his collar and eyes the color of amber honey. When he looked at me, it felt like being seen all the way down to my bones. "They do," he'd admitted, "but none of them make tea as good as yours." "I don't make tea for my patients." "You made me tea the first time I came here. You said it would help with the pain." "That was 3 years ago, and I've been coming back ever since." His expression had turned serious then. "Elara, I'm not here because I need a healer. I'm here because I want to see you." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Why?" "Because you're brilliant and kind, and you don't look at me like I'm just a beta. You look at me like I'm just Rowan." "You are just Rowan." "To you, maybe. To everyone else, I'm Beta of the Moonfang Pack, second in command, the Alpha's right hand." He'd stepped closer. "But when I'm here, with you, I get to just be me." I had known in that moment that I was in trouble. Deep, dangerous trouble. Because Rowan wasn't just attractive. He was intelligent, funny,
genuinely kind. He remembered details about my life, asked about my patients, my garden, the book I'd mentioned reading. He made me laugh. He made me feel seen. And that terrified me.
For 2 years, we'd danced around whatever was building between us. Rowan would visit, we'd talk for hours, he'd help me in the garden, his werewolf strength making quick work of the heavy digging while I directed him with affectionate exasperation. Sometimes he'd bring me books from the Pack library, rare medical texts I couldn't access anywhere else. Sometimes I'd send him home with remedies for Pack members I knew were struggling but too proud to seek human help. It was friendship, careful, deliberate friendship with clear boundaries. Until 6 months ago, when Rowan crossed them. It had been late evening. I was closing up the clinic when Rowan appeared at my door. He looked different, nervous, determined. "Can we talk?" he'd asked. "Of course, come in." But he'd shaken his head. "Not here. Walk with me?" We'd ended up at the old bridge on the edge of town, the one that marked the boundary between human and Pack territory. Rowan had been quiet for a long time, staring out at the river below. Finally, he'd turned to face me. "Elara, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear me out before you say anything, okay?" My stomach had dropped. "Okay?" "I'm in love with you." The words had come out steady, certain. "I've been in love with you for 2 years, and I know this complicates things. I know you value your independence. I know you have reservations about Pack life, but I can't keep pretending this is just friendship when it hasn't been, not for me, in a very long time." I had stood frozen, my heart racing. "I'm not asking you to become a werewolf. I'm not asking you to give up your clinic or your life. I'm asking you to be mine, to let me court you properly, to build something real between us. Rowan, there's more." He'd taken a breath. "The Alpha has given me permission to bring a mate into the Pack, human or wolf. He's made it clear that whoever I choose will be welcomed, protected, given a place of honor." "A place of honor as what? Your human pet?" The words had come out harsher than I'd intended, but the fear was clawing at my throat. Rowan had flinched. "No, never that. As my equal, my partner. In a Pack where I'd have no voice, no vote, where I'd be tolerated but never truly belong." "Elara, that's not—" "It is, Rowan, you know it is." I'd wrapped my arms around myself. "I've seen it happen, human women who fall in love with wolves and lose themselves in the process. They give up their homes, their careers, their identities. They become the Beta's mate or the Third's human. They're never just themselves anymore." "You would always be yourself. I would make sure of it." "You can't promise that. You're Beta, Rowan. You have duties, responsibilities, and Pack law is absolute. If your Alpha ordered you to choose between me and the Pack, we both know what you'd choose." "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I'd turned to face him fully. "Tell me honestly, if it came down to it, if I was on one side and your Pack on the other, who would you choose?" Rowan had been silent, and that silence had been answer enough. "I can't do this," I'd whispered. "I can't give up everything I am for someone who can't even promise to choose me when it matters. Elara, I love you." "I know, and that's what makes this so hard. But love isn't enough, Rowan, not when the cost is my entire life." I'd turned and walked away, and Rowan, to his credit, hadn't followed. In the days that followed, I waited for him to fight for me, to argue, to try to change my mind. He never came. My clinic remained empty of 6-foot werewolf betas with honey-colored eyes and devastating smiles. I told myself I was relieved. I'd made the right choice, protected myself, maintained my independence. So why did my chest ache every time I made tea? Why did I find myself looking toward the door during the late afternoon, the time Rowan always used to visit? Why did everything feel muted and gray? "You're being ridiculous," I'd told myself firmly. "You didn't love him. You just got used to his company. You'll adjust." But 3 months later, when I still caught myself setting out 2 cups instead of 1, I had to admit the truth. I'd loved him.
maybe I still did. And rejecting him had been the hardest thing I ever done. But it had been the right thing. It had to have been. 4 months after I rejected him, Rowan returned to Ashfall. But he didn't come alone. I first heard about it from Mrs. Chen, who ran the bakery next to my clinic. "Did you hear?" the elderly woman asked, her eyes bright with gossip. "The Beta's back, and he's brought a mate with him." My heart stopped. What? A she-wolf from the Northern Territories, Lyra something, noblewoman, they say. Gorgeous thing, all long legs and silver hair. The whole pack's been celebrating for 3 days. I see. My voice sounded distant even to my own ears. "Are you all right, dear? You've gone very pale." "Fine, I'm fine, just busy. Excuse me." I retreated into my clinic and closed the door with shaking hands. A mate. Rowan had found a mate. Of course he had. He was Beta of a powerful pack. Young, strong, handsome. Obviously he wouldn't stay alone forever. Obviously he'd moved on. Just like I told him to. So why did it feel like someone had reached into my chest and torn out my heart? I managed to avoid seeing them for 2 weeks. It wasn't hard. Rowan had no reason to visit my clinic anymore, and I made sure to time my errands for when I knew pack members were least likely to be in town. But Ashfall was small. Eventually, inevitably, our paths crossed. I was at the market selecting herbs from old Mr. Torrens when I felt the familiar prickle of awareness that meant a powerful wolf was nearby. I looked up, and there he was. Rowan stood 30 feet away, talking with the market master. He looked exactly the same. Dark hair, amber eyes, that powerful presence that made people instinctively defer to him. But there was something different, too. A lightness to his expression, an ease in his posture. He looked happy, and beside him stood the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. Lyra was everything the rumors had promised and more, tall and elegant with silver blonde hair that fell in waves down her back and ice blue eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore simple clothes, but she moved with the unconscious grace of someone born to power. She touched Rowan's arm, saying something that made him laugh. The sound hit me like a physical blow. I'd made him laugh like that once. Rowan's gaze swept the market and landed on me. For a moment, everything stopped. His expression flickered, surprise, then something that might have been pain, quickly hidden behind a polite mask. He said something to Lyra, who turned to look, and then they were walking toward me. No. I wanted to run, wanted to disappear, but I was a respected healer in this town, and Rowan was Beta of the Territory's pack. So I stood my ground and prayed my face didn't betray me. "Beta Rowan." Rowan's voice was carefully neutral. "It's good to see you." "Beta Rowan." I nodded politely, proud that my voice remained steady. "Welcome back to Ashfall." "Thank you. I'd like you to meet Lyra Silvermoon, my mate." There was the slightest emphasis on the last word. Not cruel, just definitive. "Lyra, this is Elara. She runs the healing clinic in town." Lyra extended her hand with a warm smile. "It's wonderful to meet you. Rowan has spoken very highly of your skills." I shook her hand, trying not to think about what else Rowan might have told his mate. "Thank you. Welcome to Ashfall." "It's a lovely town, so different from the Northern Territories." Lyra's arm slipped through Rowan's with casual intimacy. "I'm looking forward to making it home." The word home felt like a knife between my ribs. "I'm sure you'll be very happy here," I managed. An awkward pause. "Well," said Rowan finally, "we should let you get back to your shopping. Take care, Elara." "You as well." I watched them walk away, Lyra leaning into Rowan's side, his hand coming to rest protectively on her back. They looked perfect together. 2 wolves, 2 equals, 2 people who belonged to the same world. Everything I could never have been for him. I made it back to my clinic before the tears came. The weeks that followed were torture. Rowan and Lyra were everywhere. Ashfall was small enough that avoiding them was impossible. They attended town meetings together, walked through the market, stopped by the bakery where Lyra apparently loved the honey cakes, and everywhere they went, people stared, not with suspicion or concern, with awe, because Rowan and Lyra were beautiful together, powerful, the kind of couple that seemed destined, like they'd been carved from the same moonlight. Lyra was gracious and kind, greeting humans with genuine warmth instead of the cool superiority some wolves displayed. She volunteered to help with the upcoming harvest festival. She remembered names and asked after people's families. The town adored her. And Rowan looked at her the way I had once dreamed he might look at me, with devotion, pride, love. It was killing me. I stopped going to places I knew they'd be. I threw myself into work, taking on more patients, expanding my herb garden, anything to keep my mind occupied. But at night, alone in my cottage, the carefully constructed walls would crumble. I'd lie awake remembering the way Rowan used to smile when he saw me, the sound of his laugh when I'd say something particularly sarcastic, the feeling of safety when he was near, like nothing could hurt me while he was there, the look in his eyes when he told me he loved me, the silence after I'd walked away. "You made your choice," I'd whisper to myself in the dark. "He respected it. He moved on. You have no right to feel this way." But knowing that didn't make the pain any less real. 6 weeks after Rowan and Lyra arrived, my carefully maintained composure finally cracked. It was at the Harvest Festival, the biggest event of the year, where the whole town gathered to celebrate the autumn bounty. I had considered not going, but as one of the town's respected healers, my absence would be noted, so I'd put on my best dress, fixed my hair, and went. The festival was in full swing when I arrived. Music, dancing, long tables groaning with food. Children ran through the crowd while adults laughed and talked. I made my way through, accepting compliments on my recent work and making small talk with neighbors. And then I saw them, Rowan and Lyra, dancing. The music was soft and slow, and they moved together like they'd been dancing for years instead of weeks. Rowan's hand was on Lyra's waist, her head rested against his shoulder. They looked so perfectly matched that it hurt to breathe. I turned to leave. "Elara, there you are!" Mrs. Chen appeared at my elbow, beaming. "Come, dear, we're about to announce the blessing ceremony." "The what?" "The blessing for Beta Rowan and his mate. The Alpha himself is here to perform it. It's a great honor." My stomach dropped. I really should... But Mrs. Chen was already pulling me toward the town square, where a crowd was gathering. The Alpha of the Moonfang Pack stood on the raised platform, a massive man with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes that glowed faintly gold even in human form. Beside him stood Rowan and Lyra, hands joined. "Friends," the Alpha's voice carried across the crowd, "we gather tonight to witness and bless the union of my Beta, Rowan Blackwood, and his chosen mate, Lyra Silvermoon." The crowd cheered. I felt like I was going to be sick. The bond between mates is sacred, written in the stars and blessed by the moon. Tonight, under the harvest moon, we recognize and celebrate this bond. He placed his hands on their joined ones. "Rowan Blackwood, do you take this woman as your mate, to honor, protect, and cherish for all your days?" "I do." Rowan's voice was clear and certain. "Lyra Silvermoon, do you take this man as your mate, to honor, support, and stand beside for all your days?" "I do." Lyra smiled up at Rowan with such obvious love that I had to look away. "Then, by the power vested in me as Alpha, I recognize this bond. May the moon light your path together." The crowd erupted in cheers as Rowan pulled Lyra into a kiss. I turned and pushed through the crowd, desperate to escape. I made it to the edge of the festival grounds before my vision blurred with tears. "Elara?" I spun around. Rowan stood 10 feet away, having somehow followed me through the crowd. "What are you doing here?" The words came out sharper than intended. "Shouldn't you be with your mate?" "Lyra's talking with the Alpha. I saw you leave and..." He took a step closer.
Are you all right? I'm fine. You're crying. Allergies. Elara. What do you want, Rowan? I wrapped my arms around me. Why did you follow me? He was quiet for a moment. Because you looked like your heart was breaking, and I needed to make sure you were okay. Well, I'm fine. Go back to your mate. Not until you tell me what's wrong. Nothing's wrong. You've moved on. You're happy. That's good. That's what I wanted. Is it? His voice was soft but challenging. You want to know what's wrong? The words burst out of me. I have to watch you every day with her. I have to see you smile at her the way you used to smile at me. I have to listen to people talk about how perfect you are together, how blessed the pack is, how lucky she is to have you. Elara. And the worst part? Tears streamed down my face. The absolute worst part is that I have no right to feel this way. I rejected you. I walked away. I told you I didn't want this life. So I have no right to stand here feeling like my heart is being ripped out every time I see you with her. Rowan's expression was anguished. Then why do you? Because I was wrong, the admission tore out of me. I was wrong and I was scared, and I convinced myself I was protecting my freedom when really I was just protecting myself from being hurt. Laughed bitterly. So congratulations, Rowan. You found what you were looking for, and I'm happy for you. I really am. I turned to leave. Rowan caught my hand. Don't, I whispered. Please, just let me go. For a long moment he didn't move. Then his hand dropped, and I walked away, leaving Rowan standing alone at the edge of the festival, the sounds of celebration echoing behind him.
3 days later, everything changed. I was in my clinic, organizing supplies, when the alarm bells rang. Not the regular bells that marked the hours, the warning bells, the ones that meant danger. I ran to the window and my blood ran cold. Smoke rose from the eastern edge of town. Screams echoed through the streets. And cutting through it all was a sound that my wolf-educated ears recognized immediately. Howls. Rogue wolves. Attacking Ashfall. I grabbed my emergency medical kit and ran outside. The town square was chaos, people running, screaming, trying to get to safety, and cutting through the crowd like deadly shadows were the rogues. Wolves in their animal forms, larger and more vicious than pack wolves, their eyes glowing red with bloodlust. Pack warriors were already engaging them, trying to protect the human civilians. But there were so many rogues, too many. I saw a woman fall, blood blooming across her shoulder from a rogue's claws. Training overrode fear. I ran forward, dragging the woman behind an overturned cart. The wound was deep, but not fatal. I worked quickly, applying pressure, wrapping it with practiced efficiency. Get to the shelter, I ordered, now. The woman stumbled away. Another scream. An elderly man being cornered by 2 rogues. Before I could think, I grabbed a fallen plank of wood and charged. Hey! I swung the plank at the nearest rogue, hitting it across the snout. It yelped and turned toward me, eyes glowing with rage. Oh, God, what had I just done? The rogue lunged. And then a massive dark wolf slammed into it from the side, taking it down in a flurry of teeth and claws. Rowan. Even in wolf form, I recognized him. The dark fur, the amber eyes, the way he moved with controlled power. He dispatched the first rogue with brutal efficiency, then turned on the second. Within moments, both rogues lay dead. Rowan shifted back to human form, not bothering with modesty. What the hell were you thinking? He demanded, fury and fear warring in his expression. You could have been killed. I needed help. I had it handled. He grabbed my shoulders. Elara, please, get to the shelter now. I'm a healer. People need me. And I need you alive. The raw emotion in his voice stopped me cold. Behind us, another howl. More rogues pouring into the square. We need to fall back, one of Rowan's warriors called. There are too many. Rowan's jaw clenched. He looked at me, then at the chaos around us. A decision crystallized in his eyes.
"Get everyone to the pack house," he ordered his warriors. "Humans and wolves both. We'll make our stand there. But Beta, the human shelter, won't hold against this many rogues. The pack house will. Go." Warriors began herding people toward pack territory. Rowan turned to me. "Stay with me, please." I nodded, too shaken to argue. We ran through the burning streets together, Rowan protecting me at every turn, his body always between me and danger. By the time we reached the pack house, I had treated a dozen injuries on the run and was covered in blood, none of it my own. The pack house was fortified, designed to withstand attacks. Inside, humans and wolves huddled together, many injured, all terrified. "Set up triage in the main hall," Rowan ordered. "Healers, human and wolf, work together. Warriors, I want guards on every entrance. No one gets in." For the next 2 hours, I worked alongside pack healers to treat the injured. I lost myself in the work, stitching wounds, setting bones, administering herbs and medicines. At one point, I looked up to find Elara working across from me, her hands steady as she bandaged a child's arm.
Our eyes met. Elara gave me a small, tired smile before returning to her patient. Even now, even in the midst of crisis, the she-wolf was gracious. I hated that I couldn't even hate her. By nightfall, the attack had been repelled. 23 rogues dead, 7 pack warriors injured, 2 critically, 14 human civilians wounded, 1 killed. It could have been so much worse. I sat on the floor of the main hall, my back against the wall, too exhausted to move. Around me, people were settling in for the night. The pack house would shelter everyone until it was safe to return to town. Someone sat down beside me. "Elara." "You did incredible work tonight," the she-wolf said quietly. "I heard you ran into danger to save someone. That was very brave." "Or very stupid," I muttered. "Perhaps a bit of both." Elara was quiet for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" "I suppose." "You love him, don't you? Rowan." My head snapped around. "What?" "It's all right. I'm not angry." Lyra's expression was gentle, understanding. "I've seen the way you look at him when you think no one's watching, the way you flinched during the blessing ceremony." Shame burned through me. "I'm sorry. I never meant—" "I know." Elara cut me off kindly, "and I think maybe I should tell you something about Rowan and me. You don't have to. We're not fated mates." I froze. "What?" "Rowan and we're a political match, arranged by our alphas to strengthen ties between our packs." Elara smiled sadly. "We care for each other. We're friends, and we'll make a good partnership, but we don't have that bond, that connection that can't be explained." "Then why?" "Because Rowan is Beta. He has duties, responsibilities, and after you rejected him, he threw himself back into those duties with everything he had." Elara looked toward where Rowan stood talking with his alpha. "He's a good man. He'll be a good mate, but there will always be a part of his heart that belongs to someone else." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because after tonight, after watching you run into danger to save someone, after seeing you work yourself to exhaustion helping people who aren't even your pack, I understand what Rowan saw in you. You're brave, Elara. You're strong. Don't let fear keep you from fighting for what you want." She stood and walked away, leaving me sitting against the wall, my mind reeling. I found Rowan on the roof of the pack house. He sat at the edge, looking out over Ashfall, where crews were already working to put out the last of the fires. "Elara said I'd find you up here," I said quietly. He turned, surprise flickering across his face. "You should be resting. You worked yourself half to death tonight." "So did you." I sat down beside him, careful to leave space between us. "Are you all right?" 7 warriors injured because I didn't see the attack coming. 1 human dead because my territory wasn't secure enough. No, I'm not all right. "This wasn't your fault. I'm Beta.
Everything that happens in this territory is my responsibility." He ran a hand through his hair. "I should have reinforced the borders, should have seen the signs." "Rowan, you can't predict everything." "I can try." He was quiet for a moment. "When I saw that rogue about to attack you, for a moment I couldn't breathe. All I could think was that I might lose you before I ever got the chance to... To what? To tell you that I never stopped loving you." The words hung in the air between us. My heart pounded. "Rowan, I know, I made it now. It's not fair to say this, but after tonight, after almost losing you..." He turned to face me fully. "I need you to know, accepting your rejection was the hardest thing I ever did. Walking away, every day since has been... You didn't reject me. I rejected you. And I let you go, because I thought that's what you wanted. But Elara, if I had fought harder, if I had..." "I talked to Lyra," I interrupted. "She told me about your arrangement." Rowan closed his eyes. "She shouldn't have done that." "Why didn't you tell me? When you came back, when you introduced her as your mate, why didn't you tell me it was political?" "Because what difference would it have made?" He opened his eyes, and the pain in them nearly broke me. "You made it clear you didn't want to be with me, didn't want the complications of being with a wolf. Whether Lyra is my fated mate or my political match doesn't change the fact that you rejected what I offered." "I was scared." "I know." We stared at each other, both breathing hard. "I know you were scared, and I understood. I even respected it. But Elara, you can't have it both ways. You can't reject me and then be upset when I move on." I know I have no right. I wrapped my arms around myself. "I didn't know it would hurt this much, seeing you with her, watching you build the life I was too afraid to reach for." "So what do you want from me?" His voice was raw. "Do you want me to leave Lyra? To break a political alliance between two packs? To shirk my duty as Beta because the woman who rejected me changed her mind?" "No, I would never ask that." "Then what, Elara? Because I can't keep doing this. I can't keep feeling like my heart is being torn in two every time I see you." "I don't know." Tears streamed down my face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I was too afraid to trust you. I'm sorry I realized too late that being afraid of losing myself was nowhere near as painful as losing you." Rowan's expression crumbled. He reached for me, then stopped himself. "Don't. Please. If you touch me right now, I won't be able to..." I closed the distance between us. My hand cupped his face, feeling the familiar roughness of his stubble, the warmth of his skin. "I love you," I whispered. "I loved you then, and I love you now, and I will probably love you for the rest of my life, even though I have no right to do so." "Elara..." "But I also know that loving you doesn't mean I get to have you. You made a commitment to Lyra, to your pack, and I won't be the person who asks you to break that." I started to pull away. Rowan caught my hand, pressing it against his cheek. "6 months ago, you were afraid I'd choose my pack over you, and you were right to be afraid, because my duty, my responsibility to my pack, it's everything. It's who I am." My heart cracked. "But loving you," he turned his head to press a kiss to my palm, "has taught me that duty and desire don't have to be enemies, that maybe the strongest thing I can do isn't sacrificing my own happiness for the pack, but finding a way to honor both." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I need to talk to Lyra and to my alpha and figure out if there's a way to..." "No. Rowan, you can't upend your entire life on the chance that I might be brave enough this time. That's my choice to make. And what if I'm not? What if I get scared again and run? I had no choice." I shook my head. "You deserve someone who's sure, someone who won't hesitate. I don't want someone else. I want you, scared, uncertain, stubborn you." "Rowan..." A commotion below interrupted us. One of the warriors burst onto the roof.
Beta, we've captured one of the rogues. He's asking to speak with you. Rowan stood immediately, his expression shifting from vulnerable to commanding in an instant, the Beta taking over from the man. I'll be right there. He looked at me. We're not done with this conversation. Yes, we are. You have duties. I have my clinic to rebuild. I stood as well. Go. Your pack needs you. He looked like he wanted to argue, but below more shouts echoed. With one last lingering look, Rowan left. I stood alone on the roof, watching the smoke rise from Ashfall, and wondered how many times a heart could break before it simply gave up.
The captured rogue had information. The attack on Ashfall wasn't random. It was a coordinated assault, the first of many planned by a rogue coalition trying to destabilize Pack territories and claim them for themselves. Ashfall was a test, Rowan explained to the emergency council gathered in the Pack house. They wanted to see if they could overwhelm a territory with both Pack warriors and human civilians. If they'd succeeded here, they would have moved on to larger targets. So we can expect more attacks, Alpha Marcus said grimly. Yes, which means we need to strengthen our defenses, station more warriors along the borders, and... Rowan paused. We need to evacuate the human civilians temporarily. Outrage erupted from the human council members. You can't force us from our homes. Ashfall has been our town for generations. This is exactly what we feared, wolves taking over. Rowan held up a hand. I'm not talking about a permanent evacuation, just until we can secure the territory and eliminate the rogue threat. It's for your safety. Or maybe it's an excuse to claim our land, one council member spat. The argument raged for an hour. I sat in the back, watching Rowan navigate the politics with patient diplomacy, even as I could see the frustration building in his shoulders. Finally, a compromise was reached. Humans could stay, but they would be assigned Pack guards. The town would be under martial law until the threat was eliminated. It wasn't perfect, but it would keep people safe. As the council dispersed, I made my way toward the door. Elara, wait. I turned to find Lyra approaching. Can we talk privately? We ended up in a small study off the main hall. Lyra closed the door and leaned against it. I'm going to be very direct because I think we're past the point of politeness. All right. I meant what I said last night about you fighting for what you want. Lyra crossed her arms. But I also want you to understand something. Rowan is a good man, maybe the best I've ever known, and whether our match is political or fated, I care about him. I don't want to see him hurt. I don't want that either. Then you need to make a choice. Lyra's voice was firm, but not unkind. Either you want to be with him, really be with him, fears and complications and all, or you let him go, completely. No more longing looks, no more tearful confessions, no more keeping him in limbo. He's mated to you. I've already let him go. Have you? Because from where I'm standing, you're both holding on to something you claim to have released. Lyra moved closer. Here's what I know. Rowan would never dishonor our arrangement. He'll be a faithful, devoted mate, because that's who he is. But he'll also always wonder what if, and I'll always know I'm second choice. Lyra, let me finish. She held up a hand. Our alphas arranged this match for political reasons, and Rowan agreed to it because he thought you didn't want him. But things have changed. You've changed, and I think, she took a breath, I think if you were brave enough to fight for him, really fight, the alphas might be convinced to dissolve our arrangement. My heart pounded. You'd give him up? I'd rather he be with someone who loves him than someone who's convenient. Besides, there's a third in my home pack I've been interested in for years. If I'm released from this arrangement, I might finally have a chance to see if he feels the same. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet. Think about it. Really think about whether you're ready to be what Rowan needs, because if you reject him again, Lyra's expression turned serious.
It will destroy him, and I won't let you do that to him. So be sure, Elara, be absolutely sure before you make your choice." She left, closing the door softly behind her. I sat down heavily, my mind spinning. Lyra was offering me a chance, a real chance to be with Rowan, but it meant committing, fully, to a life intertwined with pack politics and werewolf culture, to being the Beta's mate with all the complications that entailed. It meant being brave enough to reach for what I wanted instead of protecting myself from potential hurt. The question was, could I do it?
The rogues struck again 3 days later. This time, they hit the pack borders hard, a coordinated assault clearly designed to draw the warriors away from Ashfall itself. It worked. While the majority of pack warriors rushed to defend the northern border, a smaller rogue force struck the town from the south. I was in my rebuilt clinic when the alarms rang. I grabbed my medical kit and ran outside, and stopped dead. The clinic across the street was on fire, and trapped on the second floor, visible through the window, were 2 children. Without thinking, I ran forward. "Elara, no!" I didn't stop. I burst through the door, smoke immediately burning my lungs. The stairs were already engulfed in flames. No way up. Think. The trellis on the side of the building. I ran outside, grabbed the trellis, and started climbing. My hands burned, my lungs screamed, but I kept climbing. I reached the window and broke it with my elbow. "Come on!" I reached for the children, a boy and girl, maybe 7 and 9. "We have to go." "The stairs are on fire," the girl sobbed. "We're going down the trellis. I'll help you. Trust me." I got the boy out first, talking him through each hand and foothold, then the girl. By the time I started down myself, the smoke was so thick I could barely see. My hand slipped. I fell. Strong arms caught me. Rowan. He'd shifted back to human form, his body still radiating heat from his wolf. "You incredible, infuriating, brave, stupid woman," he growled, carrying me away from the burning building. "The children are safe. You saved them. You also nearly got yourself killed. Again." He set me down once we were clear, his hands running over me, checking for injuries. "I'm fine," I coughed. "You're not fine. You're covered in burns and you can barely breathe." He looked around frantically. "Where are the healers?" "At the northern border, with you." I grabbed his arm as he started to leave. "Rowan, wait. The attack on the border, it's a distraction. The real attack is here." His eyes widened. "How do you know?" "Because I'm not stupid. They pulled your warriors away so they could hit the town when it's vulnerable." Damn it! He pulled out his phone, already calling for reinforcements, but before he could finish the call, howls erupted all around us. Rogues poured into the street, dozens of them. Rowan shifted immediately, placing himself between me and the threat, but there were too many, and Rowan was alone. One rogue lunged at me. I dove sideways, grabbing a fallen piece of wood. The rogue knocked it from my hands and pinned me to the ground. And then Rowan was there, ripping the rogue off me with savage fury. But while he was protecting me, 2 more rogues attacked from behind. Rowan went down with a pained yelp. "No!" I didn't think. I grabbed the first thing I could find, a piece of broken glass, and drove it into the nearest rogue's eye. It howled and retreated, but the second rogue turned on me. Rowan struggled to his feet, blood streaming from a wound on his side. He was hurt. Badly, and there were still so many rogues. I looked at the man I loved, preparing to defend me even though he could barely stand, and something inside me broke wide open. All the fear, all the hesitation, all the excuses I'd made, none of it mattered. Not compared to this. Not compared to him. "Rowan," I said clearly, "I choose you." His wolf form went very still. "I choose you," I repeated louder. "I choose pack life and complications and all of it. I choose you, and I'm done being afraid." Around us, the rogues closed in, but I kept my eyes on Rowan. "So, if we survive this, I need you to know I'm not running anymore. I love you, and I want to be with you, however you'll have me." Rowan shifted back to human form, his eyes glowing amber, blood still running down his side. "However I'll have you?" He laughed roughly.
Elara, I want you as my mate, my partner, my equal. I want you beside me for the rest of our lives. Even though I'm human, even though I'll complicate everything, especially because of that. A rogue lunged, and then howls, but not from the rogues. The pack warriors flooded into the street, led by Alpha Marcus himself. The battle was brutal but brief. Within minutes, the rogues were dead or fleeing. Rowan collapsed as the adrenaline faded, his wound finally catching up with him. "Rowan!" I ran to him, my hands already assessing the damage. Deep claw marks across his ribs, bleeding heavily. "Okay," he slurred. "You're not okay, you stubborn wolf. Don't you dare die on me. Not now, not when I finally figured out what I want." "And what's that?" "You. I want you, forever." He smiled, his eyes starting to close. "Good, because you're stuck with me now." "Rowan, stay with me, stay awake." But his eyes closed anyway. Rowan woke up 12 hours later in the pack infirmary. The first thing he saw was me, asleep in a chair beside his bed, my hand wrapped around his. I looked up the moment I felt him stir. "You're awake! Oh, thank God!" I stood, leaning over him, my hands gentle on his face. "How do you feel?" "Like I got mauled by rogues." "That's because you did, you idiot. What were you thinking, taking on that many alone?" "I was thinking I needed to protect my mate." I went very still. "Your mate? You said you chose me, or was that just the adrenaline talking?" "No," I shook my head firmly. "I meant it, every word. I choose you, Rowan. I choose this life. I'm done being afraid." "You're sure? Because there's no going back from this. Once you commit to being a Beta's mate." "I'm sure," I cupped his face. "I'm absolutely sure. It took almost losing you to make me realize that being afraid of getting hurt is nothing compared to the pain of not having you in my life." Rowan pulled me down into a gentle kiss. When we broke apart, we were both crying. "There's something you should know," Rowan said quietly, "about Lyra and me. She told me about the arrangement. Did she tell you that we've already dissolved it?" My eyes widened. "What? When did this happen?" 2 days ago. I was going to tell you, but then the attack happened and..." He touched my face. "You saved those children. You fought beside me. You chose me even when you thought it meant watching me be with someone else. I couldn't let fear win anymore. I'm so proud of you, and I love you so much." "I love you too." We kissed again, deeper this time, both of us pouring months of longing and fear and hope into it. When we broke apart, I rested my forehead against his. "So what happens now?" I asked. "Now," Rowan smiled, "now you move into the pack house, you become my official mate, and we figure out the rest together. What about my clinic? You keep running it. In fact, I was thinking we could expand it, make it a joint human-wolf facility. You could train both human and wolf healers." "Really?" "Really. Elara, I don't want you to give up who you are. I want you to be exactly yourself, just beside me." "I can do that." I smiled through my tears. "I can definitely do that." 3 months later, under the full moon, I stood before the Moonfang Pack. I wore a simple white dress, my dark hair was woven with moonflowers, and around my neck was a pendant bearing the Moonfang symbol, a gift from Alpha Marcus himself. "We gather tonight," Alpha Marcus announced, "to witness the mating of Beta Rowan Blackwood and Elara Thorne."
The pack howled in celebration. This ceremony was different from the blessing he'd received with Lyra. This was real, official, permanent. "Elara Thorne," Marcus said, "you were not born a wolf, but you have the heart of one. You have proven your courage, your strength, and your commitment to this pack. Do you accept Rowan Blackwood as your mate, knowing that this bond will tie you to our pack for the rest of your life?" I looked at Rowan, at the man who had waited for me, fought for me, loved me even when I was too afraid to love myself. "I do," I said clearly. "I accept Rowan as my mate, and I accept this pack as my family." Rowan Blackwood, do you take this human woman as your mate, knowing that she will bring changes, challenges, and complications to pack life? Rowan grinned, especially because she'll bring challenges. I accept Rowan as my mate, now and always. The Alpha placed his hands on our joined ones. Then by the authority vested in me, I recognize this bond. You are mate and mate, tied by love and choice. May the moon bless your path. The pack erupted in howls and cheers. Rowan pulled me into a kiss that left me breathless. When we broke apart, the pack began the traditional run, shifting into wolf form and racing through the forest to celebrate. "Can you keep up?" Rowan asked with a teasing smile. I laughed. "I'm human, remember? I don't shift." "Then I guess you'll have to ride." He shifted into his wolf form and crouched low. I climbed onto his back, wrapping my arms around his powerful neck. And then we were running, the wind in my hair, the moon above us, the pack racing around us in joyous celebration. For the first time in my life, I felt completely, utterly free. Not because I was alone, but because I'd finally been brave enough to let someone in, to choose love over fear, to choose connection over isolation, to choose Rowan. And as we ran through the forest under the full moon, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice. Sometimes the thing we're most afraid of is exactly what we need. Sometimes love asks us to be braver than we think we can be. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, we get a second chance to choose what we were too afraid to choose the first time. This is my story, a story about rejection and redemption, about the courage it takes to admit when we're wrong, about learning that protecting yourself from pain doesn't actually protect you from anything, it just isolates you from joy. I rejected Rowan because I was afraid of losing myself, afraid of being hurt, afraid of all the ways love could go wrong. But in rejecting him, I discovered something important. You can reject love, but you can't stop loving. You can walk away, but you can't walk away from what's written on your heart. And sometimes the bravest thing we can do isn't protecting ourselves, it's risking everything for a chance at happiness. Watching Rowan with another woman broke my carefully constructed walls. It forced me to confront the truth I'd been running from. I'd rejected him not because I didn't love him, but because I loved him too much to trust it. And in the end, love doesn't ask for certainty, it asks for courage. The courage to reach for what you want, even when you're terrified. The courage to choose connection over safety. The courage to say, I was wrong, and mean it. I found that courage, not in a moment of calm reflection, but in the chaos of battle, when I realized that protecting my heart mattered far less than protecting the man I loved. And Rowan, he loved me enough to wait, to respect my choice, to build a life without me, even though it broke him. But when I came back, when I finally chose him, he was there. Because real love doesn't keep score, it doesn't punish, it just waits. And when the person we love is finally ready, real love says, I'm still here, I'm still yours, welcome home. Until next time, may you have the courage to choose love, even when it terrifies you. May you recognize what you need before it's too late. And may you always remember, rejecting something doesn't make it hurt less. Sometimes it just means you hurt alone. Choose connection, choose courage, choose love.